The night in Tijuana, August 22, 2025, was a nightmare for Chivas supporters. The city buzzed with anticipation, but for the traveling fans in red and white, hope quickly turned to dread. The Estadio Caliente, usually a place of fierce competition, became a stage for heartbreak. From the opening whistle, the energy felt off. Chivas looked tense, their passes uncertain, their movements hesitant. The crowd sensed it too, a nervousness that rippled through the stands as the minutes ticked by. The scoreboard read 3-0 for Xolos de Tijuana, a crisis in the making for Chivas. Each goal felt heavier than the last, echoing through the stadium and deep into the hearts of the Chivas faithful. The numbers on the board weren't just a score, they were a symbol of unraveling dreams, a harsh reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in football. The team looked lost, their confidence shattered, and their defense in tatters. Players exchanged glances, searching for answers that never came. The midfield, once the engine of their attack, was overrun and outpaced. Every mistake seemed to compound the pressure, and the weight of expectation grew heavier with each passing minute. Each Xolos attack cut through Chivas with ease, exposing a team in free fall. The Tijuana forwards danced around defenders, exploiting every gap and hesitation. It was as if the Chivas backline had forgotten their roles, leaving their goalkeeper exposed time and again. The home fans roared with every surge forward, sensing blood in the water. This was supposed to be a chance for redemption, but it became a public humiliation. The Chivas supporters, who had traveled hundreds of miles, watched in disbelief as their team unraveled. Some covered their faces, others shouted in frustration, but all felt the sting of disappointment. The pain was visible not just in the stands, but on the pitch, where players struggled to regroup after each setback. The third goal, an own goal by Luis Romo, confirmed by VAR, felt like fate mocking them. The stadium fell silent for a moment as the referee signaled for the review, but the confirmation only deepened the wound. Romo's face said it all: disbelief, regret, and a sense of helplessness. It was a cruel twist, the kind that makes you question whether the football gods are laughing at your misfortune. Senior players looked frustrated, the young ones bewildered. Every loose ball went to Tijuana. The team's leaders tried to rally the squad, but their words seemed to fall on deaf ears. The younger players, thrown into the fire, looked overwhelmed by the occasion. Tijuana's hunger and aggression were unmatched, and every 50-50 challenge ended with the ball at their feet. Chivas, a giant of Mexican football, was not just losing, they were losing their identity. The pride and tradition that defined the club seemed to fade with every passing minute. Fans who grew up idolizing the red and white stripes now watched their heroes sit dejected on the pitch, searching for answers. The emblem on their chests felt heavier than ever, a symbol of both glory and the burden of expectation. As the halftime whistle blew, disappointment hung in the air. The team trudged off, searching for answers. The walk to the locker room felt endless, each step weighed down by the enormity of the moment. Coaches whispered urgently, players avoided eye contact, and the silence was broken only by the distant cheers of the home crowd. It was a moment of reckoning, a time to reflect, regroup, and somehow find the courage to fight back. The question was clear. Could it get any worse, or was there a spark of defiance left? As the players gathered in the tunnel, a sense of determination began to flicker. Would they crumble under the pressure, or would they rise to the challenge and reclaim their pride? The second half awaited, and with it, a chance for redemption or further heartbreak. In the away dressing room, tension was thick. The air was heavy with disappointment, and the silence was only broken by the distant echoes of the home crowd celebrating outside. Each player sat with their own thoughts, heads bowed, wrestling with frustration and doubt. The first half had not gone as planned, and the weight of expectation pressed down on every shoulder. Manager Gabriel Milito faced his team, not with anger, but with a challenge to their pride. He stood tall in the center of the room, his eyes scanning the faces of his players, searching for a spark, a sign that they were ready to respond. He didn't raise his voice or point fingers. Instead, he spoke with conviction, his words cutting through the gloom. He acknowledged their mistakes and the dire situation, but reminded them of the crest on their chests and the fans who never give up. He spoke of the thousands who had traveled miles to support them, of the children in the stands wearing their heroes' names, and of the legacy they carried every time they stepped onto the pitch. This badge, he said, tapping his chest, means more than just a game. It's about honor, about representing everyone who believes in us. Milito didn't talk about winning the match, but about winning back their self-respect. He reminded them that football is not just about the scoreboard, but about the fight, the spirit, and the refusal to surrender. He wanted them to walk out of that room with their heads held high, regardless of the final result. He demanded they fight for themselves and each other, to play with freedom, and take risks. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, he urged. Be afraid of not trying. Be afraid of leaving this room with regrets. He called on the leaders in the squad to lift their teammates, to be the first to press, the first to shout encouragement, the first to believe. Forget the scoreline, he urged. Show the world who you are. He wanted them to play for the love of the game, for the pride of the shirt, and for the bond they shared as a team. He reminded them that adversity reveals character, and that this was their moment to show what they were made of. He reminded them that momentum can shift with a single goal. All it takes is one moment, he said, holding up a finger. One tackle, one pass, one shot. That's how comebacks begin. That's how legends are made. He urged them to believe, to keep fighting, and to trust in each other. This was more than a halftime talk. It was a psychological reset. Milito was not just giving instructions, he was reigniting belief. He was reminding them that football is played as much in the mind as on the field, and that courage is contagious. The players listened, their eyes meeting his, the fire slowly returning to their expressions. Milito asked them to become protagonists, to take control of their destiny. He wanted them to write their own story, to refuse to be defined by the first half. You have the power to change this, he said. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Be the one who makes the difference. As they prepared to return, despair gave way to resolve. The room, once silent and heavy, now buzzed with a new energy. Players exchanged glances, nodding in silent agreement. They stood up, clapped hands, and formed a tight huddle, united by a common purpose. The mountain was steep, but now they had a reason to climb. Every step toward the tunnel was a step away from doubt, and a step toward redemption. The noise from the stadium grew louder, but so did their determination. They would fight for their pride, for their teammates, and for everyone who believed in them. The second half awaited, a new battle, a new chance to show the world their true character. As the whistle blew to start the second half, Chivas emerged from the tunnel with a new sense of purpose. The energy on the field was palpable. Gone was the uncertainty that had plagued them in the first half. Instead, every player looked focused, determined, and ready to fight for every ball. The halftime talk had clearly ignited something within the team, and the crowd could sense the shift in momentum. Urgency and sharpness replaced hesitation. Chivas pressed high up the pitch, closing down Tijuana's defenders and forcing mistakes. Every pass, every tackle, every sprint was executed with a renewed sense of belief. The players knew that an early goal could change everything, and they played with a hunger that hadn't been seen before the break. The breakthrough finally arrived. After a series of quick passes, Gutierrez slipped the ball through a narrow gap in the defense, finding Armando Gonzalez, known to fans as La Hormiga, for his relentless work rate. With ice-cold composure, Gonzalez took a single touch and calmly slotted the ball past the goalkeeper, sending it rippling into the back of the net. 3-1. The away section of the stadium exploded in celebration. Flags waved, voices roared, and hope surged through the Chivas supporters who had traveled so far to witness this moment. Wasting no time, Gonzalez grabbed the ball from the net and sprinted back toward midfield, signaling to his teammates that this was just the beginning. His determination was contagious, and the message was clear: Chivas were not done yet. The goal injected a surge of belief into the Chivas squad, while Tijuana's players looked momentarily stunned. The dynamic on the field had shifted. Suddenly, the underdogs were brimming with confidence, and the favorites were rattled. The scoreboard now read 3-1, but the atmosphere had changed completely. What once seemed like an insurmountable lead now felt fragile. Tijuana's defenders exchanged anxious glances, aware that the momentum was slipping away. This was exactly the response that Coach Milito had demanded at halftime: relentless pressure, unwavering belief, and a refusal to accept defeat. From the sidelines, he urged his players to keep pushing, to keep believing. Gonzalez's goal was more than just a number on the scoreboard. It was a spark that lit the fuse for what could become a dramatic comeback. The team huddled together, encouraging one another, their spirits lifted. Suddenly, what had seemed impossible now felt merely improbable. Chivas had hope, the fans had belief, and the fight was truly on. The stage was set for an unforgettable second half. With momentum on their side, Chivas pressed forward. A foul just outside the box set the stage for Efrain Alvarez. Calm and focused, Alvarez struck a perfect free kick over the wall and into the top corner, 3-2. The stadium was stunned. The comeback felt inevitable. Alvarez's goal demoralized Tijuana and electrified Chivas. Players who looked defeated now played like champions. This was a moment of pure footballing magic. Chivas were one goal away from an extraordinary turnaround. Belief soared. The scent of a historic comeback filled the air. Chivas dominated, driven by belief. Tijuana clung to their lead. Roberto Piojo Alvarado, a half-time substitute, seized his moment. He weaved through defenders, surged into the box, and fired a low shot into the net. 3-3. The bench erupted. Alvarado was mobbed. His goal symbolized Chivas' resilience. From despair to parity in 20 minutes, this was Milito's half-time vision realized. The equalizer was courage and skill personified. Chivas had stared down humiliation and responded with unforgettable character. A win would have been a fairy tale, but this draw felt monumental. This draw wasn't just about goals, it was a cauldron of drama. VR played a central role, adding tension and controversy. Tijuana earned a first-half penalty, but Chivas keeper Tala Rangel made a crucial save. That moment kept Chivas alive. Later, a red card for Tijuana's Ivan Tona was downgraded to yellow after VR review, a huge let-off for the home side. Early injuries and constant interruptions made the match chaotic. Rangel's penalty save was a turning point, a foundation for the comeback. In the end, these moments shaped the night as much as the goals. The comeback was unlocked from the manager's bench. At halftime, Milito made a bold triple substitution: Alvarado, Aguirre, and Cowell. Cowell's pace stretched Tijuana's defense. Aguirre brought control to midfield, but Alvarado was the catalyst. His energy and creativity ignited Chivas. His equalizing goal crowned a game-changing performance. Milito's tactical gamble paid off, shifting the team's entire philosophy. The subs injected belief and quality when it mattered most. The bench became the difference. After the final whistle, Milito felt both pride and worry. He praised his team's heart and resilience but knew a draw wasn't enough. The comeback was thrilling, but the defensive frailties were glaring. "We didn't come here to tie," he admitted. Chivas' leaky defense remains a major concern. Constantly chasing games is unsustainable. The match showed their spirit, but also their urgent need for defensive improvement. Milito celebrated the fight, but focused on fixing the foundation. Chivas left Tijuana with a hard-earned point, more valuable than it looked. The comeback stopped a losing streak and revived belief. But defensive issues remain. Milito's task is far from over. Dramatic turnarounds can't be the norm for a team with big ambitions. The lesson: Chivas have heart, but must shore up at the back. Next up is Cruz Azul, a new test, and a chance to build on this spirit. The draw was a story of despair, resilience, and hope. Now Chivas must turn that spirit into consistent winning football.